So I want to go back to your mother and her influence on you, because you are an individual of many firsts, but your mother was also a woman of firsts, was she not?
She really was. That's how I never thought it was strange to do those things because she did them. And she was the first woman to be on the school board, and she was the first woman chairman of the School Board of Education. She was the first Republican committee woman in Iowa. It was natural.
So you never grew up with limitations. You didn't feel like I'm a woman or whatever, that there's any limitations.
No, because my mother had done all that, and you know, I ran into that you know, throughout the years, but it never intimidated me. In fact, my answer sometimes was, well, I remember somebody saying to me, "Aren't you intimidated about being in Rotary with 315 men?" And my answer was, to tease a little bit with my sense of humor, I said, "No, that's about the ratio I like."
You've broken a lot of barriers, but did you set out to break barriers?
No, I never even thought I was breaking a barrier, and neither did my mother. No, I thought that was funny. I can remember when I was I was the first woman dean of, at the time I was, I think, the only woman dean of fine arts in the world. And I went to the international meeting, and they really didn't know what to do with me. And, you know, it didn't seem unusual to me, so I just accepted everything, and people have always been very gracious. I've really not. I'm sure they were probably saying things behind my back because I'm sure they were concerned about having women there. But I've really had people be very, very nice to me.
As the first woman, you really did blaze the trail for the rest of us. Did you think about that? What motivated you to do that?
Oh, yes, I did think about that. I definitely did. And, you know, finally, when I did become a president of the Downtown Rotary, then I was able to bring in a number of women. In fact, I think I brought in 8 that particular year, or at least had other people help sponsor them. But I don't want to be where I'm not wanted. And I don't want to get anything because I'm a woman. I want to get it because I deserve it. And that's where I've always felt with, and perhaps as I would see women maybe not doing the things they could do, instead wouldn't work, but thought they were women, thought they should get it. I think you have to work to do it, to prove yourself. Now, we probably have had to work a little bit harder. I know that I had in several instances.
Speaking of the first woman, you were the first woman, one of the first women to join the Rotary Club, first woman to serve as president of the Rotary Club. This is the Rotary Club of Jacksonville, the downtown club. First woman to become a member of the River Club.
Right. Oh, that's funny. That one is really funny. Because my husband was a member of the River Club. And then when he died, then I could be a widow and visit for 6 months, I think it was. But I couldn't eat in that dining room, or there were all sorts of rules. And then it was Alex Brest who decided, because I would always take when we were recruiting faculty, I would take them there. It was a great way to see the city. The city's so beautiful at night, whether you're any of those buildings where you're at the top, the University Club or any of those. But Alex Brest said, "You need to be a member." And I said, "I can't do anything that would offend people who support JU." And I really didn't think I should do it. I said, "After all, I'm also a fundraiser, and it's important that we support JU." And he said, "No, no, no, no," in his wonderful way. Anyway, you knew him, you know. He was so wonderful. The lawyer drew up a plan that they were going to use for 2 years. The first year, I would not vote. The second year, I would vote. But I would be a member the first year. Just a non-voting member the first year. So I agreed to that. And there wasn't any problem. It passed, and everybody was very nice about it. I'm sure there were people that thought there shouldn't be a woman, but at least they were very nice to me. And so I didn't know about it. I was having a meeting of the Faculty Administration Council, and I had told my secretary, don't disturb me because we have a vote coming up and we're discussing some very important things. And so I was so surprised when she came in the middle of the meeting, and she said, there's an urgent telephone call for you. And I thought somebody had died. I dashed out and went to the office, and there it was Preston Haskell. And Preston apparently must have been chair of the board, I guess, at that time. Anyway, he said, I just wanted you to know that you are the first woman member of the River Club. And I said, well, that's wonderful, and thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I do have to get back to my meeting. And so then the next year they made me a voting member. But then it was still a long time before they had women.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So
I thought that would have opened the door for more.
Well, it finally did, but you know, I think they sort of looked at me as a. I told my husband I thought they looked at me as a man earlier, because the first speech I gave in Jacksonville, the very, very first one, which was when I just came, 1958, and Franklin Johnson had arranged it. I don't remember which club it was, but I do remember what I wore. I can't remember what I wore at any of. I've given over 2,600 speeches. I don't keep track of them anymore. My secretary kept track of them, she kept track of them, but I haven't. But I can remember what I wore at that first speech. And I was driving up from St. Augustine, and I had a white wool suit. I remember that winter wool suit, and I even remember I had a white hat. And I must have looked funny. I'm sure I did. But anyway, so I walk in the door, and their table is there with 3 men. And I said, I'm Frances Kinne. I'm the speaker. And their eyes were like this. And they said, we thought you were a man. Well, I think it was Fran Tarkington that was a big football player at that time. There were athletes that had the name anyway. And then they quickly said, oh, but this is fine. You know, you're fine.
You're fine. It's okay.
Yeah. So they were expecting
a man.
A man.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that speech go?
I don't remember the speech, really. I can only remember what I wore. But I do remember they were very gracious. They were very, very gracious to me. And I remember they laughed a lot because I told them some of the silly things that had happened to me. I changed my whole speech. I do know that. I changed what I was going to do. Because it shook me, it was such a shock.
to them?
That I
shock to you.
No, shock to me. Well, yeah, it was a shock to them, but it was a shock, believe me.